Okay, the first video we're going to do is factor by grouping, and we're going to call this the easy way to do it, because in this one, this a is always going to be 1. So our first example, we're going to work with x squared plus x minus 6, which this one may be simple enough to do with the guess and check method, but just to begin with, we're going to start working on our factor by grouping. So what we need to do first is you're going to take whatever is right here. So in our case, it's a negative 6. So that negative does come with it. And we're going to write it over here. And we need all the factors of negative 6. So it's going to start listing them out. So we got negative 1 and 6, 1 and negative 6, negative 2 and 3. Or let's see, let's write, so we keep it in order, 2 and negative 3. So now we want to add all these together. We get 5, negative 5, 1, and negative 1. And what we're looking for is whatever's here, so whatever's in that B place. So in this place, it's just a positive 1, so these are going to be the ones that we want. So I always like to write it with my smaller number right here, then the larger number every single time, and that's exactly how I'm going to write it over here as well. So now we're going to rewrite our problem. So we're going to keep the x squared. What we're doing, we're trying to group this middle part, so we're going to say now negative 2x plus 3x minus 6. So what you can do is you can always go back and check and say that negative 2x plus 3x is just 1x. So we haven't changed anything about the value of the problem. So what we're going to do now is we're going to group it. So we got our two groups, these first two, the last two. So we're going to pull out whatever works in both of these. So both of these have an x. So we got that x minus 2. Then what we're looking for on the second group is we want x minus 2. So we think of what we can pull out of both of those, and it's going to of course be a 3. So now we can pull an x minus 2 out of both. So now that's our factor. And then one thing I like to always do is we're going to check. So we're going to check using the FOIL method. So we can FOIL these together and check and make sure that works. And I'll have a video later on that goes over the FOIL method more. But it's just the x times x is x squared. X times 3 is plus 3x. Negative 2 times x is negative 2x. Negative 2 times 3 is negative 6. We add all that back up. And this is what we started with. So we factored that one correctly. Okay, so we're going to try another problem. This one's going to look a little more difficult, but it's actually going to be just a little bit easier. So x squared plus 9x minus 22. So it's still the easy way because this a right here is still going to be a 1. So what we're looking for is whatever c is, so whatever that last number is a negative 22. So the reason I say this one's a little easier because it's not going to take quite as much, well, it's going to have the same amount of factors, but it's not going to look nearly as bad with this, the 9 and negative 22 actually look. So we're going to say we got a negative 1 and 22. We got a 1 and a negative 22. Like I said, I always try and write it this way. We got a negative 2 and 11, and then a 2 and negative 11. So we add all these up. -21, negative 21, 9, and negative 9. Of course, we're looking for a positive 9, so it's going to be these are going to be our winners for that one. So we're just going to say x squared minus 2x plus 11x minus 22. And like I said, you want to check and make sure that these two right here are in fact going to add up to be your 9, so you're not actually changing anything about the problem. You're just rewriting it so we can do our grouping. So we're going to group the same way we did earlier, these two and these two. And that's the reason I always put the smaller number on this side. Vast majority of the time it's going to work out better if you do that to where you're actually pulling out the right thing. So try and always put your smaller number on this side and then write it exactly like that on this other side. So let's go back and let's finish this one out. So we're going to pull out the x. And then this one, like we said, we want the x minus 2. And so we got to figure out whatever we need to pull out. It's obviously going to be the 11. You can check. You can fold this back together and make sure that you get this. Same thing here. And then we want to pull out this x minus 2 from both of these. So we're left with x plus 11. Like I said, you may want to, or you need to get in the habit of folding this back together all the time. So we say x squared plus 11x minus 2x minus 22. And then whenever you work that out, so as long as you always come back up with the same thing you had here, then you're doing that problem right. Okay, we'll try one more, and this one's not going to have an x minus 2 in it. And so we got x squared minus 12x plus 35. So same thing, we have just a 1 here for our a. So we're going to take whatever our c is. In this case, of course, it's 35. Okay, so whenever we're doing this one, we're going to have a 1 and a 35. And now, of course, whenever you have a positive number, the thing you got to remember is that that's the same thing as -1 and -35. Okay, but of course, hopefully you realize that two positive numbers are never going to add up to be this negative number here that we need. Because whenever we do this, we take our c, we're trying to find two things that multiply to be c, they also add to be b, so it's never going to work out that way for right here. So what we're going to do is we're just going to start ignoring these, and we're just going to use a negative one. So we know that 5 times 7 is 35, but we know that those won't work, so we're going to say -5 times -7. Okay, and of course you can realize that that one's not going to add up to b, so this is going to be the one that we want, because -5 plus a -7 is a -12. So we will say x squared minus 5x minus 7x plus 35. So you can just check and make sure that we add these two together. We're at 12x, so we haven't changed anything about the problem yet, so we're just going to group it now. Say x minus 5. Like I said, you can fold that back in it, and you're right back here. So then what we want over here is we want an x minus 5. So this part may be a little tricky because we want a negative right here because we need it to match this, because that's how the factor by grouping works. So we have a positive right here. So really it's not going to be that hard. All you got to do is make sure you're pulling out a negative number and making this negative to make sure that this is negative. If that's confusing, what you need to do is just always go back and check. So -7x times -5, -7x times x is -7x. -7 times -5 is a positive 35. So now we can pull out what we have. So we're going to pull our x minus 5 out. That leaves us with an x minus 7. We fold these back together. X squared minus 7x minus 5x plus 35, which of course is going to add to be x squared minus 12x plus 35. So those two match up, and so that works. So this is, I'm just going to do these three examples for the easy factor by grouping. I'm going to have some problems below that you can click on, and you can try those, and you click on the answer to see it. And we'll do a video later that's going to have it whenever this a is not just a 1, and that'll be a little more difficult factor by grouping.